district, according to the CBIA, that's the Connecticut Business and Industry Association, in a survey have said that roughly 80%, not roughly, 79% to be exact, of businesses in Connecticut think that the TPP and a follow-on European deal would provide them with opportunities to grow their business and therefore obviously to employ more people. I am philosophically pro-trade in the sense that I know that when countries trade together, overall wealth is increased. However, I'm very much a fair trader because there is no doubt that when you trade more, there are winners and there are losers. And globalization, which is different than trade, globalization has been very, very hard on the American manufacturing base. So I'm in the process of looking at the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is an agreement amongst 12 nations in the Pacific, South America, Asia, North America, Mexico, and Canada. These 12 nations comprise 40% of global GDP in the service of making a decision should it come up. I am as yet undecided because on the one hand, proponents of the deal, including the President of the United States, say this is 40% of global GDP. Businesses, you heard the stat about what CBIA thinks about businesses here in Connecticut. Businesses, if they can export more, they will hire more, they will contribute to overall economic vibrancy in the state of Connecticut. A trade deal like the TPP is an opportunity, and I stress it's an opportunity, not a certainty, to do things like to bring up the standard, environmental standards, labor treatment standards in places like Vietnam and Malaysia and Brunei that today do not have very high standards. Now, on the flip side, you have the question of whether more trade is in fact going to help Connecticut as a whole, in the 4th District in particular. And there are what economists call dislocations. That means some people can lose their jobs when you trade more. There is also questions about whether pharmaceuticals are going to be available in places like Vietnam, whether something called the Investor-State Dispute Resolution Mechanism, these are tribunals by which investors decide conflicts in countries in which they invest, whether those are fair. I am in the process now of looking at that, because this is a massive endeavor, and I make it a practice not to make a commitment on legislation that has yet to be presented to the Congress, but looking at that to see if this trade deal is in fact what the President has promised it would be, which is, as he said, the most progressive trade deal in U.S. history. You should know, I did support something called Trade Promotion Authority, commonly known as Fast Track. By the way, it's anything but fast. We've had this now for 15 months in which people have been able to read the TPP and before it has come up. But Fast Track is simply a procedure by which we have always considered trade agreements in this country. And the idea is that Congress votes yes or no on a trade deal. Most of the trade deals, if not all of them, have been signed under this procedure because they are, of course, negotiated, in this case, with 12 countries. And if you do that negotiation, and then 535 members of the U.S. Congress get to amend and change that and fix that and make this different, then of course you have to go back to 12 other countries with a totally new deal. Fast Track, which is anything but fast, has been the way we have always passed trade agreements. It has been given to every president in the last 50 years, with President Richard Nixon and briefly George W. Bush, for obvious procedural reasons. So I, rather than say, no, we will not consider this trade agreement, I voted, and you should know, I was the only Democrat in New England to vote for the Fast Track Authority. I voted for it not because I necessarily support the TPP, but because I thought we should, given that we are an export state, given the jobs at stake, we should at least have the opportunity to consider this trade agreement the way trade agreements have been considered by the Congress for the last 50 years.
And I'm sorry, before we go to John, I see some people standing in the rear. There are plenty of seats upstairs in the balcony if you want to go outside of the stairs. All right, John.
Well, thank you, and thank you for coming out on a cool Monday night.